Have you ever felt like something inside you simply faded away? And the worst part is, you just let it. Leonardo was an ordinary man. He had a stable job, a decent apartment, and a predictable routine. To anyone looking from the outside, his life seemed perfectly fine. He woke up at 6:30, drank black coffee, no sugar, took the subway, made small jokes in the office, came home late, repeated everything the next day. Everything was functional, efficient, but inside it felt like his heart beat out of obligation. Each step pulled by invisible threads, as if someone had emptied his soul and forgot to mention it. Then one night, he came home and forgot to lock the door, not out of carelessness, but because deep down, he no longer felt like there was anything worth protecting. That night, something returned. Not a person, not a noise, a feeling. It started with faint sounds, whispers, echoes, as if the apartment itself was breathing. He thought it was just exhaustion, but the sounds felt closer, not in the walls, not outside, inside him. He checked the fridge, everything in its place. He turned on the bathroom light. The mirror showed a face he no longer recognized. It wasn't fear he felt, it was familiarity. This emptiness, this echo, had lived with him for a long time. He had just stopped noticing. That night, sitting on the cold kitchen floor, Leonardo asked something he hadn't dared to ask in years. What did I let die inside me to end up like this? And then he remembered, not something, but someone, a version of himself, a boy who used to dream, a man who laughed with his eyes, who believed in things like love, like art, like feeling alive. That version didn't vanish all at once. It was abandoned slowly, in every small compromise, every no to what he loved, every yes to make someone else happy, every maybe later that never came. Piece by piece, Leonardo replaced himself with someone else, someone quieter, more useful, more efficient, until the version with fire in his eyes became the one who barely felt anything. But the emptiness, it doesn't forget, it returns, and when it does, it doesn't knock. It sits beside you like an old friend and whispers, "Do you remember me?" Leonardo began to remember things, not in dreams, in silence. While the city slept, something in him began to wake. It started with sounds, soft, distant, a creak on the floor, a distant subway horn, the low hum of the refrigerator. But they didn't feel like background noise. They felt like signals, like something or someone was trying to reach him. It wasn't a ghost. It was worse. It was himself. The parts of him that had been buried, alive. At 14, Leonardo wanted to be a songwriter. He had a folder filled with lyrics, all signed with the stage name he never had the courage to use. At 19, he almost ran away with a girl who believed that love could be a quiet revolution. She made art from recycled paper. She laughed at the stars. At 22, he dropped out of the college he loved to take a job at a bank, because his father said, secure is better than happy. Now, at 39, he barely remembered how to smile with his eyes, but the emptiness remembered everything. That night, wandering through his apartment, Leonardo stopped in front of a bookshelf. He hadn't touched it in years. Suddenly, he felt something in his chest. Not pain, not panic, just a strange pressure, as if something was trying to get up. After lying down for too long, he opened a cabinet, found a dusty notebook. Inside, a half-written song. In the corner, signed, Leo Sky. He smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. It was the kind of smile that knows something is gone, but maybe not lost. He held the notebook against his chest, and slowly, quietly, he cried. Not loud, not desperate, just still. Tears like memory, like recognition. He cried not because he was broken. He cried because something inside him still lived. And after all this time, it was still trying to breathe. The emptiness didn't come to destroy him. It came to warn him. He had left something behind, something that still remembered his name. And maybe, just maybe, there was still time to go back. The next morning, Leonardo didn't go to work. He didn't call, didn't make excuses. He just stayed, sat at the kitchen table, stared at the same coffee mug he'd used for years. But this time, it felt like it belonged to someone else. Like everything around him was part of a life he had accidentally walked into. He wasn't angry. He wasn't afraid. Just quiet. The thought of going back to who he was felt ridiculous, like trying to light a candle in the rain. How do you recover something that was erased? But something inside him stirred. He got up, opened a closet, pulled out an old guitar, dusty, forgotten. His fingers didn't move like they used to. The chords were wrong. The strings hurt. Still, he played. It wasn't beautiful, but it was real. It wasn't about becoming who he was. It was about no longer being what he had become. In the days that followed, Leonardo walked. No destination, no plan. He wandered the city like a ghost remembering how to live. He sat on benches, watched strangers, listened to the sound of footsteps, buses, voices. He returned to places from his past. A cafe where he once wrote songs. A bookstore that once made him cry. But nothing was the same. Not the places, not the people. Him. He had changed. And maybe that was the point. The past isn't a place we return to. It's a mirror. And over time, it blurs. He realized something then. The emptiness wasn't a hole. It was weight. Too many things. Too many obligations. Too many versions of himself that didn't belong to him. He had collected silence like souvenirs. Collected disappointments like trophies. And as he let go, he didn't feel smaller. He felt clearer. For the first time in years, he could breathe. Not because something new had entered, but because the old things were finally leaving. He didn't know what came next. He didn't have a plan, but that didn't scare him anymore. For the first time in a long time, he was walking towards something that felt real. And this time, it was his. Months passed. Leonardo never returned to his old job. He didn't look for another. He didn't chase the same kind of stability anymore. He sold what he didn't need, kept only what felt honest, stripped life down to its bones. And in that space, he found something. He began to write again, little pieces, short thoughts, stories that weren't meant for anyone, but found everyone. He signed them with the name he once buried, Leo Sky. People read them, and something strange happened. They wrote back, "Did you write this for me?" He understood the question, because every word he wrote was also written for him. His stories became a conversation, not with the world, not with fame, but with the silence inside him. The emptiness hadn't been an enemy. It had been a message from a version of himself, left behind, forgotten, waiting. The world teaches us to fill the void, with people, with noise, with things. But Leonardo learned the truth. Relief doesn't come from filling. It comes from listening. It comes from recognizing who we used to be, who we still are, and who we might become. In his final story of that year, he wrote, "Sometimes the greatest emptiness is the one we leave within ourselves, but sometimes that's exactly where we find the way back." And in that moment, there was no sadness, only presence, only silence that no longer hurt.